Mark, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Ian. How are you, fella?
I'm very well. And for anyone who doesn't know, this is Mark Greenfield from Ultimate High at Goodwood. Ultimate High do a whole bunch of training, UPRT, formation training, and aerobatic training. And today I'm going to talk to you about aerobatics. I was kind of
I did.
figuring out. Now,
Sorry, fella.
I know that there's sorry, right. There's a whole bunch of people in the comments from time to time who go, no, aerobatics not for me, whatever. So I kind of wondered how we could make this a bit different. So I've got 5 questions for you here. So I
Okay.
wonder if you could question one. What's the point of arrows?
Do you know what? There's a couple of. There's probably two or three main things about aerobatics. Firstly, I think it's really important to stress flying basic aerobatics is really easy. Okay, and so I think if some people see air displays and they get a little bit put off because it can be very technical, and obviously there's some amazing pilots out there. Oh, that's really hard work. But aerobatics at a basic level is very simple. And to that end, yeah, we have a separate business at Ultimate High where we take non-pilots flying, people who've never been flying in their life, demonstrate a roll or a loop, and then they fly it. Might not be the best roll or loop ever, but they can do it. So it's not that difficult. So people shouldn't be put off. The two most important things: one, it makes you a safer pilot. Two, it's a huge amount of fun.
Okay, question number two, which kind of blurs into that one a little bit. Actually, arrows make me feel a little bit airsick, and they scare me. Convince me.
To be fair, the greatest respect, Ian, we all know you have been a big girl's blouse for your entire flying career. So yeah, that's where that is. But it's a serious question, and the bottom line is people have different levels of tolerance depending on, it varies massively. Some people get an airplane and they'll do a steep turn, they'll feel uncomfortable. I've had other people fly, a +6 -3G sequence and been absolutely fine. The bottom line is, if you want to do aerobatics, consistency and continuity is the key thing. So if you keep flying it, then any feelings of nausea or discomfort will go away. When we train pilots, whether it's for a fun level or even up to competition level, and some former military fast jet pilots as well, we make a point of training the individual to his or her limits. It's very important not to go to a stage where people feel uncomfortable. If that means you fly a very short trip or a few short trips to start off with, so be it, because no one really enjoys flying beyond a point where they start feeling uncomfortable. And I'd argue that's one of the places that differentiates a good aerobatic training school from somewhere else, is that it's tailored to the individual.
Okay, you convinced me. So how do I start?
Well, it's very straightforward. There's lots of aerobatic schools around the country. I think it's a case of, as ever, finding one that works for the individual. Um, Lots of people, lots of flying schools will do aerobatic trial lessons where they'll give people a bit of an introduction to what flying aerobatics is like. And again, that'll be gentle. If you go to a school and you come away and they've done kind of like, what do you think of 6G? Oh, you've passed out. I've suggest that's not the best, aerobatic flight training school to go to. There are there's probably 40 to 45 different ATOs around the UK where you can go and do an aerobatics trial lesson. I would argue that I think it's quite important to sit down with the instructors from the school that you're going to and make it clear what you're trying to do. So if it is genuinely just your first go and you want to see if it's for you, then that's kind of one level of ambition, if you like. If somebody wants to actually get to the stage where they might be able to rent an aerobatic airplane themselves, then you might go about it a different way. And thirdly, if someone is intent on flying aerobatics competition, which is almost it is very much a subsection of aerobatics, then that's something that the school needs to be aware of as well, because lazy aerobatics and rolls on a Sunday afternoon are very different from somebody who wants to go out and become an aerobatic champion, or even compete at aerobatics. So it's a case of figuring out what you think you might want to do. Talk to a school, as ever, as with any flying training thing, and find an organisation that works for you.
Okay, question number four. Have you ever flown a better aerobatic aircraft than a Cessna 152 Aerobat?
Well, I know this might come as something of a shock, and there are many people who love the 152 Aerobat. I'm lucky enough to have flown a very large number of airplanes. In fact, in 3 years at the Empire Test Pilot School, I flew 72 airplanes in 3 years. And I would say, yeah, there's a fair few airplanes, quite a lot better than the Cessna 152 Aerobat. Pictured here is the XA300, one of my favorite airplanes. I've been lucky enough to be flying that airplane for about 15 years now. I hold an unlimited display authority in that particular airplane. I'm still learning how to fly. And to me, again, that's one of the great things about aerobatics. There are different levels. And if you choose to, you can progress up those levels to get to a higher and better standard. And I'd say, I think aerobatics might be a little bit like golf. I don't play golf. I'm not going to say anything negative about golf, but I'm not a golfer, but I do understand the whole concept of competing with yourself. And to a certain extent, to me, that's what aerobatics is about. I've never done an air display. I've never done an aerobatics flight where I've come away thinking, yep, that was perfect. I've come away thinking it's better than the previous one and I've improved, but there's always things to do better. And if you're a competitive individual, not necessarily aerobatics competition per se, but if you want to work hard to make yourself a better pilot, then I think aerobatics is a great discipline to follow.
Thank you. Okay, last question. If you want to be an aerobatic pilot, do you need anything other than sunglasses and a big watch?
The big watch is critical. It's been pointed out to me earlier on. I'm not even wearing a watch, so I clearly can't be an aerobatic pilot. And normally, obviously, as an aerobatic pilot, I would be wearing sunglasses indoors, but I appear to have mislaid my glasses. I think that's probably Alzheimer's. I'm not entirely sure. But yes, it's very, very important. The bigger the watch, the better. And if your sunglasses are like Zafford Beeblebroxes, that can be a great advantage in close proximity to the ground.
I don't know who that is. I don't think
it's a reference to Douglas Adams.
Okay, excellent. So, in all seriousness, moving away from the watch and the sunglasses, and talking about the competition stuff. I know competition is a subset of aerobatics and not something that a lot of people think of to begin with. But in the past, I did have a go at a couple of beginners comps, and I have to say they are not only great fun, but a great goal and something to train towards. So, what do you think about competitions and the role they can play in training?
I think competitions are great. That's what you want to do. Having been along to several competitions, as you said, I think although it is obviously a competition and people are trying to win the competition, I think the social aspect of aerobatics competitions are great. I said earlier on, I think that anything where people work hard and push themselves to try and be a better pilot is really important, and that is one of the advantages that aerobatic pilots have. They tend to be more precise and more accurate because they have to be in flying the maneuvers. But I think the shared experience, particularly, it would be nice if there's a whole bunch of people at your own airfield who did exactly the same thing. You can hang out with them, kind of thing. But certainly a little bit like air racing, which has its own social circle. I think if you go along to aerobatic competitions, you meet a lot of people, and they're trying to do the same thing, and it's very friendly, even though you are competing. From what I've seen, there's an awful lot of shared advice, and it's good watching other people fly the same sequences so that you can say, okay, well, I can learn from that. I can make myself a better pilot as a result of it. So obviously, aerobatic competitions have been a little bit thin on the ground in the recent past, but they're a great thing, both from a social perspective, from having almost a reason to go flying, and as I said, in terms of making people better pilots.
Okay, and I know you also specialize in UPRT upset recovery training. In terms of the blurred edge between, is there a blurred edge between them? Do they overlap at all? How does that work?
Well, put it this way, we have a lot of, we had in the past at least, a lot of airline pilots said, I don't need to do UPRT because I'm an aerobatic pilot. Now, Patty Wagstaff, the famous American aerobatic pilot, will tell you to an aerobatic pilot, there's no such thing as an unusual attitude. And she's absolutely right. But the big difference between aeros and UPRT is that they are actually fundamentally different. Someone who does aeros may be better at UPRT, but in aerobatics, you're deliberately setting about to fly maneuvers that put the airplanes into unusual positions that are way outside the middle of the flight performance envelope. And you know it's going to happen, and you're prepared for it, and you've trained for it. UPRT, or recovery from unusual attitudes, is designed to focus on the risk that is flight upsets resulting from loss of control in flight, which still to this day is the largest single cause of fatalities and hull losses in both commercial and general aviation, and really looks at giving people the skills, giving pilots the skills and resilience to be able to deal with upsets. Now, I think upset is a little bit of a mealy-mouthed, wishy-washy phrase. Upset is something, it's not a big deal. What UPRT is actually about is preventing people from dying through crashing. That's what it is. And if you're flying an airliner and you find yourself in a nose low overbank, it's going to be scary. It's going to be worrying, and it's going to be way outside most people's experience if they have not done on aircraft UPRT. So on aircraft UPRT is designed to basically build confidence. It's a confidence builder and build resilience so people are less impacted by startle if they're lucky enough to fly themselves in a flight upset. And I hope that description shows that they are two completely different things.
I'll consider myself taught, should we say.
Okay, you'll learn to know, are you?
Yeah. So in that case, I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining us. If anyone wants to go and try some aeros in the south of England, then pop to Goodwood. It's a great experience in the Slingsby or the Extra. And thank you very much, Mark. I look forward to seeing you sometime on an airfield sometime soon.
Thanks, Ian. Always a pleasure.
Cheers.
He's a top guy, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
He is.